Okay, we've still a few more people just to arrive, but I'll get underway. Again, I'd just like to start, just in case some of you have got issues or questions you want to ask from the previous sessions, and I'll just pause just for a little while, just to give you the chance if you want to come up and speak at the microphone. Because I know, as I say, how difficult it is, but the opportunity is there if you want just to feel that, yeah, I want to do this. So just have a go. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start this afternoon's session by moving on to something that I think you're all going to have to think about very carefully, possibly from next September or earlier than that, about this idea of the school-university partnerships where you are going to be either as or working with cooperating teachers. You're also going to be, I think, leaders in your own organizations when it comes to helping others to develop action research. Now this means that when you go back to your universities and also in IPST, that you'll be trying to explain to some colleagues about the workshop that we've had this week. And you know that you can access the Action Research homepage. From that homepage, you can show people the Action Research Planner. I'll go through again tomorrow just to make sure that you know how to access from the right-hand side, that What's New section, the virtual learning space, where CPD Thailand at the top has got all your action plans in, your details of your websites. So when you go back to your institutions, you'll be able just to show people that they too can access those action planners. And tonight, I'll really work to get your website with your points about the culture onto that list. So tomorrow, hopefully, we can see that it's there. And this goes for everybody else. If you haven't seen your website there, and you know it should be, just email me and I'll try to make sure it's there. But this is for you, literally as a leader of action research back in your institution, to share with colleagues some of these processes we've gone through, so that you can ask them to use the Action Research Planner to get their own action research underway, and perhaps to try it with their students as they're actually working to develop action research. But as leaders of action research, you're also going to be focused on trying to develop action research in the school-university partnerships. You'll have cooperating teachers who could be encouraged to develop action research with the students in the schools as they are looking to improve the learning of their pupils. I want to show you where you can access the stories of some of the people in your positions in England who have worked to support the teacher researchers in schools as cooperating teachers to use action research to improve their practice. And one of the key documents I'll show you how to access, and the section is by this deputy head teacher called Simon Riding, whilst he was working at a school called Bitton Park, and he worked to create a group of 25 of the teachers to research their practice to improve the learning of the pupils. So I'll show you where you can access Simon's story, where he started as you're starting, with nobody in the cooperating schools who've done action research. So he was starting from the beginning, and he developed over a period of 12 months a very effective teacher-researcher group. So I think it's rather important that you understand how to access Simon's work. And then what I want, and I've asked Professor Van Tieper over lunch, if she would just explain to you what happened to her as she, in her education, rather like yourselves, in this workshop, have shown, we say, reticence in speaking in a group, a little, although some of you haven't, but most of you are feeling the need to develop that skill of inquiry, of asking questions. And Professor Van Tieper has got a story of how she developed that skill from her own experience that I think might be useful to you, especially when you try to develop this with colleagues and cooperating teachers. Okay, so first of all, I'll just show you how to access the story by Simon Riding, which I think he got his doctorate for developing this story in terms of his work with teacher researchers. Okay, so I think we're all connected again. Are you? Yes, on the web again. So I'll just take you through so you can actually show people, if you wish, this document from Simon. Now, you need to go back into my homepage, and like some of you were asking for the master's units and writings, that's there. If you want the doctorates, they're in the living theory thesis section. And if you go down all of these to get to Simon Riding here, Simon Riding, again, how do I contribute to the education of myself and others? Now, Simon's thesis focused on this idea of developing, this is a bit, there's a lot of text here. Okay, so this starts, go down, just right down to page 230. You'll see that he incorporates video clips in his thesis, so it is a multimedia thesis, as he explains the values that he holds. You go right down to page 230 to get what was called the Bitton Park, here you are, the Bitton Park Teacher Research Group. It says, within this section, I share with you the narrative of how I set up and ran the Teacher Researcher Group at Bitton Park. The thesis reflects on the impact of enabling teachers to engage as teacher researchers within their own school, and he accounts for the process, he explains the process he went through to make this successful. And as leaders of action research in your school-university partnerships, I'm saying that you could also make this part of one of your action research projects. You know, in the first 2 days I went through an action research project for you that could focus on what it is you are doing in your own teaching. But as leaders of action research in a school-university partnership, you're going to be faced with some different problems than the ones you face with your students in the classroom getting inquiry learning going. You're going to be working with groups of people in a school to create this partnership. And you could make this the focus of your action research. But I just wanted to show you where you could access Simon's story, because he focused on the same things that you are going to focus on. Now, I don't want to go through this in detail. There are 23 pages. He says that when he started, the school was not in a position to embrace teacher research. It's rather like you are saying in your emails that you know that the government policy is to promote inquiry, to promote active learners, so you've got quite a bit of support from policy, from government, ministry, university. You also know that the culture has been very strong in creating passive learners, and it's not going to be easy to shift this cultural pressure. Now, Professor D'Antipa is going to explain some of the pressures when she was in America. There were peer pressures for her to participate. Now, the peer pressure works in the opposite way in Thai culture. Your peer pressure is actually for you not to question, not to show yourself as an individual within your classroom or group. So Professor D'Antipa is going to explain how she was helped develop the inquiry learning processes, which she's then brought back into her Thai experience. But this is Simon Riding saying, Bitton Park, when he started, was not in a position. There was not a culture for him. He had some work to do to get to a position to create the practitioners engaging in action research. He then talks about developing continuous professional development in the school, with teachers working as a collaborative community, individually researching their practice, with the aim of improving the quality of the space they are part of. When he first arrived at Bitton Park, his key responsibility didn't mention teacher research. 12 months on, and these things take time, 12 months on, he's now got recognition of his key responsibilities for teacher research links. So he was leaders of action research, developing this with the collaborative teachers in the school-university partnership, I think could learn, along with Simon, that it does take time. It will not happen in a week or a month. This took Simon a whole 12 months to establish something significant about the teacher research. But now, he's in a position to influence. This means local authority. This is, I don't know what you call this in Thailand, but they're called school boards in Canada. They're called local authorities in England. It's the organisation, the administrative unit that supports the schools. So it's like when you talked about the Ministry of Education, it's what then comes into your area within Thailand to support you as schools. And Simon's in a position to influence other schools. So that is where you can access the story of somebody like yourself going into a partnership where he's not ready for teacher research, but over 12 months he's actually producing it. But again, I'd like you to, some people are asking how to access the master's units. Those are all in here. With the master's units, you just go down. All of these master's units, like gifts and talents, each one of these is a master's unit. You usually do 5 of these in England, plus a dissertation to get your whole master's degree. Active learning and knowledge creating research, education inquiry. You see here, research methods in education. Again, the methods of education inquiry, understanding learners and learning. Yeah. That's where the drawing mountain about the children carrying out action research can be downloaded from. That's here. And then we've got a few action research modules and master's dissertations. I think you'll be able to share this with some of the teachers in the school-university partnership, with the collaborating teachers, where this has just gone through 2012, December. This is Joy Mounter as a head teacher. How can I demonstrate the impact and self-understandings from her living theory action research as a form of continuing professional development? So there you have a head teacher doing her action research in her school to improve practice. Again, there are some others here. I just want to point just to one other, which you might sometimes learn from. Mark Potts was a deputy head in a secondary school. He's now working with staff at Bath Spa University. He got his PhD this last year. And this is his master's dissertation. How can I improve my practice? By communicating more effectively with others in my role as a professional educator. The reason I think you'll like this is it's got some video clips of himself working as part of a collaborative school, partnership with the school university, with initial teacher educators to try to encourage them to ask their questions. So he was tutoring them to bring inquiry learning into the school. That's Mark Potts. Simon Riding did his master's dissertation with me before he did his degree at Bath Spa, his doctoral degree in Bath Spa. They're rather interesting, I think, to go through some of these as full dissertations so that you can see the complete work. With the living theory theses, it's through there. It's then down. Again, you'll see some of the other people I've mentioned. Chris Jones is there, then Simon Riding's. Click, you can get the abstract, and then you can get the full contents. This is how you get the resources to enable you to look at that school-university partnership. As leaders, you're going to be, I think, again, responsible for trying to develop those partnerships. And one of the ways in which you can do this is by helping with a collaborating teacher to develop their action research with the students and try to bring this into the classroom. Now, I hope you've been able to just see how to access a story that will, I think, be similar to your own. And because Simon, he spent 12 months doing this at Litton Park after his master's dissertation, which took 2 years, as I was supervising this from within the school, that the school had a university partnership with ourselves at Bath University. He then went on, I had too many doctoral supervisions, so I encouraged Simon to register at Bath Spa University with a tutor that I knew supported living theory, and they've actually managed to get the doctoral thesis. That was with Mark Potts. Okay, so Mark did his master's degree. Mark and Simon worked together in the same school. This is where people support each other. In the first school, there were 12 teachers that I supported for their master's units. Mark and Simon got their master's dissertations, as did Simon's wife. So you see them both on my site. And then they go on for literally a minimum of 5-year studies for their doctorates. So these are not developments that just take a few months. If you want to influence a culture, you've got to be prepared to work over that kind of time scale together to actually move cultural expectations. But I think I can show you, as I say, I do hope when you go back to your universities, you will encourage people to access these resources. In a minute, I'm just going to ask Professor Antipa to explain some of her experiences which shifted her passivity, which shifted because being influenced by Thai culture, when Professor Antipa started her education abroad, she was very much influenced by the Thai culture, which was quite passive. And I know that talking over lunch, it did take Professor Antipa some time to develop this inquiry process, the ability to question. When I've just gone through this just once more, so you can access these things very quickly with your colleagues, I'll ask Professor Antipa just to come up and talk a little about her experiences. But I do want to make sure when you go back as leaders that you can just show people how to access the Action Research site. So into actionresearch.net, one of the first things that I would show them is going down the What's New section to the virtual learning section. Here it is, the virtual learning space for the living values, improving practice cooperatively, developing an international action research, continuing professional development project. So go straight down to that, and you could actually then show people what has been going on through your websites with your action research planners in this site. You can actually pick up any of those, and you could actually bring up this issue there of the seniority. You can explain that this is something that you all talked about as being important and getting in the way of inquiry learning. And then you can show your colleagues how to start the action reflection planner. What do I want to improve? Why do I feel something could be improved? And then you could go on to how are you going to do it. So when you go back, as I say, as leaders of action research, it's just to try to make sure that you can actually get back into these spaces and show people what to do. And on this page, you'll be able to show people, if they want to, how they can get into some resources on methodology and methods in action research, issues of rigor and validity. There's a reading room with texts, project links, and also then developing your own research. Which if you wanted to keep contact with the researchers in the UK and other parts of the world, you could contribute to this site and join in. So people can see what you're doing, you can see what they're doing, and your colleagues could be asked and encouraged to participate by creating their own websites and putting this information for others to share. But I want to just make sure that you really are very confident now about going down to that virtual learning space, into your section of Thailand CPD, showing what each other's been doing, so other people can see from your universities and IST what it is going on in action research. Now, on the website here, this was the one that you've got a booklet which you could demonstrate to your colleagues. If you go into actionresearch.net, click on here, Action Planning in Improving Practice. Now, if you click on that, you go down to the appendix. That's the appendix that you've all got. This is all in your booklet. And you've got here your appendix 1, which you could, if you wished, print off, give to your college. You could translate into Thai. So you could translate, what do I want to improve? Why do I feel something can be improved? Crucial this, what could I do that might improve what I'm doing? What data will I collect? So these 5 points here could be translated into Thai, and you could just hand those to your colleagues, ask them to fill them in, the cooperating teacher, and you could encourage conversations in your school-university partnerships based on the action research plan. But this is how you can access, as I say, from the web page, print anything off you like, use it freely, just to help you with the school-university partnerships with the cooperating teacher. Now, what I'm going to do is just to ask Professor Lantipa just to explain a little about the change that she went through, coming from a Thai culture, which you're all very familiar with, to the point that I know that Vicky's experienced, I know Rita has. Sorry, in terms of names, forgive me. So, Chalida? I won't forget, Chalida. Also gave the account for earlier in terms of experiences of different cultures. But if you come directly from a Thai culture, which most of you here are influenced by, what might you need to do to move to this kind of questioning, the confidence in groups, so that we try to help students and cooperating teachers to overcome this passivity? Okay, and we'll focus a little on that tomorrow, because it will be crucial in working with the cooperating teacher to develop action research in the school-university partnership. I think it is probably the most significant issue that you will actually face over the next year or two. So, Professor Lantipa, would you mind just talking to us a little about, that experience of yours? I think this one is working. If you'd like to sit here.
Would you like me to speak in Thai or in English?
I think it's really what you think will communicate. Yeah.
If I speak in Thai, they're going to get feeling.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, please do in time.
But I already explained it to you.
You did, although I think that is working.
อยากให้พวกคุณเนี่ยเป็นคนที่อะไรparticipate กับเขามากเลยคือเขาก็ appreciate ที่คุณเนี่ยส่งงานแต่สิ่งหนึ่งเนี่ยที่เขาอยากมากๆเลยก็คือให้คุณพูดกับเขาก็เลยถามครูว่าตอนที่ครูไปเรียนที่อเมริกาเนี่ยครูโอเวอร์คัมปัญหาอย่างนี้เนี่ยได้อย่างไรครูก็บอกว่าครูเนี่ยไม่เก่งพวกคุณวันนี้นะเพราะว่าเวลาไปปั๊บเนี่ยก็คือจบปริญญาตรีแล้วก็สอนสาธิตเกษตร4 ปีแล้วก็ไปเรียนต่อปริญญาโททีนี้ปริญญาโทที่ครูไปเรียนเนี่ยครูไปเรียน MS ไม่ใช่ MA แล้วครูก็จะเรียนคณิตศาสตร์ชีวะซึ่งเป็นเมเจอร์เนี่ย2 ใน 3ของหลักสูตรทั้งหมดทีนี้ก็เป็นคนไทยคนเดียวที่อยู่ในห้องเรียนวิทยาศาสตร์คุณเข้าใจนะแล้วชีวะเนี่ยก็เป็นเด็กผู้ชายครูเนี่ยมาจากเด็กผู้หญิงโรงเรียนเด็กผู้หญิงนะแล้วไปเรียนคณะศึกษาศาสตร์นี่ก็ผู้หญิงเป็นเท่าไหร่99%ผู้ชาย1%ตอนนั้นคณะศาสตร์จุฬาแล้วเราก็ไปเรียนที่ต่างประเทศนั้นเวลาอาจารย์เลคเชอร์ปั๊บเนี่ยนะคะเขาก็จะดูคนไปทั่วเราก็เป็นอยู่ที่มุมหนึ่งที่คนไม่เห็นนะคะเพราะว่าเรากลัวมากเลยนั้นเป็นเด็กเนี่ยที่เขาเรียน20 กว่าคนนี่เวลาเรียนฝรั่งเวลาเรียนก็จะเรียนมีปฏิสัมพันธ์ใช่ไหมถามแล้วก็ตอบถามแล้วก็ตอบแล้วก็เวลาเด็กฝรั่งเรียนก็จะแยกกันตอบเพื่อแสดงว่าตัวเองมีความรู้มากเราก็นั่งอยู่อาจารย์ก็ส่งสายตามาหาเราใช่ไหมลิต้า eye contact วันที่พาไม่คอนแทคกับใครวันที่พาก็ทำเหมือนกับฟังเขียนทั้งที่บางครั้งก็ฟังไม่ออกนะคะว่าเขาพูดว่าอะไรเราเก่งทางด้านการอ่านแต่การเขียนนะคะการฟังกับการพูดของเราแย่มากครูนี่รับรองเลยแย่มากๆเลยครูได้แต่การอ่านเฉยๆเราจะอ่านเก่งอาจารย์ก็สังเกตครูมาได้4 สัปดาห์แล้วก็เรียกครูไปหานะคะที่หลังห้องนะคะหลังจากที่ทุกคนเรียนจบเรียบร้อยแล้วก็บอกกับทิพาก็บอกว่า the way you study เนี่ยนะคะก็คือวิธีการเรียน is not American way คือไม่ใช่วิธีการเรียนของเขานั้นถ้าเผื่ออยู่เรียนแล้วอยู่ไม่เข้าใจเนี่ยไม่ใช่ my duty นะไม่ใช่ responsibility ของเขาที่จะทำให้อยู่เข้าใจอยู่จะต้องเข้าใจด้วยอยู่ตัวเองนะเวลาทำงานเป็นกลุ่มคุณก็ต้องไป participate กับคนอื่นไม่ใช่อยู่ดีๆนั่งอยู่อย่างเงี้ยแล้วให้คนมาหาเราเป็นไปไม่ได้นะคะครูก็จะเป็นแบบประเภทอย่างเงี้ยนั่งอยู่คนเดียวคือถ้าว่าใครได้ทำงานเป็นกลุ่มปั๊บแล้วพอเขาเห็นเราก็เห็นเราเป็นอะไรคนแปลกหน้าคุณเข้าใจยังว่านี่ใครหน้าเอเชียแล้วไม่ใช่หน้าฝรั่งนั้นเขาก็มีความรู้สึกว่าทำไมเราเนี่ยต้องมีการปรับปรุงตัวในการเรียนที่ดีขึ้นนะเขาก็เรียกไปครูก็หลังจากถูกเรียกตัวไปปั๊บก็มานั่งมาถูกทางหรือเปล่ามาเรียนถูกหรือเปล่านะว่าเรามาเรียนนะเราก็ต้องการให้ใครเนี่ยมาบอกเราว่าเราควรจะเรียนยังไงเราก็มานั่งคิดแต่ถ้าเราคิดใน positive way ก็คือว่าเขาทำไมแคร์เรามากเลยนะก็ถึงมาบอกเราว่าเราควรจะเรียนเพราะฉะนั้นครูก็ต้องทำใจมากเลยนะแบบว่าฉันจะเรียนยังไงดีนะอาจารย์จะไม่ดุฉันก็เลยตัดสินใจนะว่าโอเคก่อนเรียนเนี่ยจะต้องอ่านไปก่อนเรียนอ่านไปก่อนนะก่อนเรียนแล้วก็ทำไมหลังจากเรียนเสร็จเรียบร้อยปะเราก็จดเลคเชอร์แล้วก็ไปหาอาจารย์เพื่อสร้างความมั่นใจว่าที่ไอฟังเนี่ยที่อยู่พูดเนี่ยถูกต้องไหมเราก็ไปพูดกับเขาก่อนเราก็จะพัฒนาตัวเราเองทีละนิดพอมีกิจกรรมกลุ่มปั๊บเราก็เดินไปหาทั้งที่ไม่เคยเดินเลยนะก็เดินไปหาเพื่อนว่าเมย์ไอเวิร์กรู้ไปขอเขาว่าขอทำงานกลุ่มด้วยไหมคือไปพูดกับเขาก็มองหน้าเรานะคะแต่เราจะเลือกใครเนี่ยเราต้องดูหน้าเขาก่อนนะคุณเข้าใจไม่ใช่เลือกหน้าที่แบบว่านั่นเราก็ดูนั่งสังเกตดูว่าใครบ้างที่เรารู้สึก feel comfortable ที่จะไปทำงานด้วยเราก็จะเห็นคนที่มีหน้าตาที่ทำไมสามารถทำงานกับเราได้พอเขาเห็นหน้าเราปั๊บเขาก็ดีนะคือตอนนั้นครูเมื่อ35 ปีที่แล้วเนี่ยครูคงหน้าตาน่าสงสารผิดกับหน้าตาตอนนี้หลายคนนะว่านี่เลยหน้าตาน่าสงสารเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยไปขอเขาขอทำงานกับใครทุกคนก็ทำไมเปิดโอกาสให้เราไปแล้วเราก็พูดคุยกับเขานะคะแล้วก็ถามเขาคือคุณต้องจับจุดให้ได้นะคนให้การนี่ทำไมถ้าเผื่อเราทำไม you เก่ง I appreciate มากเลย you help me a lot I don't know this concept if you don't tell me นะเขาก็จะรู้สึกภาคภูมิใจนะเพราะนั้นครูก็จะใช้วิธีการอย่างเงี้ยนั่งทำกิจกรรมนะคะกับเพื่อนทีละกลุ่มทีละกลุ่มทีละกลุ่มทีนี้เพื่อนครูเนี่ยดีมากเลยนะคือครูเนี่ยเป็นคนโชคดีในชีวิตของการไปอยู่อเมริกา7 ปีที่ได้เพื่อนดีมากได้อาจารย์ที่ดีมากๆครูกำลังบอกว่าเหมือนกับเราอ่ะกลุ่มเพื่อนเนี่ยเราดีมากเลยเพราะฉะนั้นเวลาถึงงานกลุ่มที่จะต้องออกปั๊บทุกคนก็นั่งจ้องวันที่พาหรือว่าวันที่พาจะพูดแล้วรู้เรื่องไหมเพราะทุกครั้งเนี่ยเวลาพูดไม่เคยพูดหน้าชั้นเลยนะสั่นไปหมดเลยนะออกมาสั่นเราก็นึกว่าเพื่อนก็ไม่สนใจเราเพราะว่าภาษาของเราเนี่ยวีคมากๆเลยนะฟังไม่รู้เรื่องเลยแต่คุณรู้ไหมพอครูออกมาหน้าชั้นทุกคนจ้องวันที่พาพยักหน้าคือเราก็ไม่รู้ว่าเขาเข้าใจเราให้กำลังใจแล้วคณะพยักหน้าตลอดเลยนะตลอดโอ้โหคุณนะผลแรกในชีวิตเนี่ยเลยนะที่เราพูดว่าคุณเขาเข้าใจแต่ก็ไม่ได้หมายความว่าทุกคนที่พยักหน้าแล้วก็ยิ้มในการที่จะฟังเราบางคนในหน้าก็ยังหน้าคงคิดในใจออกมาทำไมแล้วยังฟังไม่รู้เรื่องนี่ครูก็เลยใช้วิธีอย่างนี้นะว่าคนครูจำได้เลยว่าใครไม่พยักหน้าใครหน้าออกใช่ไหมคะพอหลังจากเสร็จเรียบร้อยการนำเสนอคลาสต่อไปครูก็เดินไปหาเขาครูบอกว่า Would you please suggest me for the next presentation What should I improve myself คือพูดกับเขาอย่างเงี้ยนะช่วยอ่านหน่อยได้ไหมไอเนี่ยไม่รู้หรอกนะเพราะว่า it's not my mother tongue ไม่ใช่ภาษาแม่นะเกือบจะพูดต่อไปในใจว่าอยู่พูดภาษาไทยได้ไหมแต่ไม่ได้นะคะก็เลยเราก็ต้องไปอย่างเงี้ยใช่ไหมเราก็พูดทีนี้เพื่อนเนี่ยสำคัญมากเลยโอ้เขาขัดทุกอย่างเพราะฉะนั้นครั้งต่อไปปั๊บเนี่ยนะคะเขาก็ลุ้นเราตลอดเวลาว่าเมื่อไหร่เนี่ยนะวันที่พาเนี่ยจะออกจนกระทั่งเรียนตั้งแต่ปริญญาตรีนะคะจนกระทั่งถึงมาเรียนปริญญาเอกครูได้2 ปริญญาเอกต่างประเทศอันที่2สายเอกของครูเนี่ยพอเข้ากลุ่มปั๊บครูนั่งอยู่คนเดียวไม่ต้องไปหาเพื่อนเลยนะทุกคนวันที่พา May I work with you วันที่พา May I work with you ครูทีนี้ล่ะมีสิทธิ์ในการเลือกว่าวันไหนอย่างไรรัฐสร้างความมั่นใจเขาก็เลยอยากจะให้ครูออกว่าคุณสร้างความมั่นใจได้ยังไงเหมือนกับว่าตอนนี้คุณเป็นคนต่างชาติ1 คนแล้วคุณนั่งกับอะไรต่างประเทศหลายๆคนแล้วก็ออกมาเขาอยากจะให้คุณเนี่ยนะคะลองพูดนะคะสักหน่อยก็ยังดีนะคะคืออะไรเสียงคุณอย่าลืมว่าเสียงนักเรียนคือเสียงสวรรค์ใช่ไหมเวลาเราสอนนักเรียนเหมือนกันเขาเป็นวิทยากรเสียงผู้เข้าอบรมก็คืออะไรนะเสียงสวรรค์นะคะว่าแม้แต่กระทั่งว่าถามว่ามีอะไรจะอะไรคอมเมนต์อีกไหมมีอะไรจะนะคะพูดอีกไหมเปลี่ยนเป็นอย่างนี้ได้ไหมI don't have it now แทนที่จะเงียบเข้าใจป่ะนะเขาก็อยากจะได้อย่างนั้นว่าอย่างน้อยที่สุดปฏิเสธเขาคือเขาคงทุกมา3 วันครึ่งเข้าใจจนกระทั่งวันนี้อดไม่ได้นะคะแล้วก็เหมือนกับครูเหมือนกันเนี่ยครูก็ไม่ใช่ภาษาอังกฤษดีครูไม่เหมือนลิต้าไม่เหมือนครูไม่เหมือนกับปาลวีใช่ป่ะปาลวีหรือเปล่าลูกปาลวีครูไม่เหมือนกับชลิดานะคะครูไม่เหมือนเพราะเขาอยู่ต่างประเทศหลาย10 ปีpronunciation ครูก็ไม่ดีเหมือนพวกคุณแต่ครูอยากจะรู้ว่าครูเรียนแล้วครูเข้าใจหรือเปล่าถ้าเราไม่คอมมิวนิเคทกับคนที่เป็นเจ้าของเราจะรู้ได้ยังไงว่าเราเข้าใจใช่ป่ะแต่ถ้าเราพยายามคอมมิวนิเคทกับยูต้องเข้าใจไอนะแต่ถ้าว่าคราวหน้านะคะไม่เข้าใจต้องไปพัฒนาตัวเองใหม่คือเขาก็อยากจะอะไรอยากจะให้เราเนี่ยนะคะช่วยแสดงความคิดเห็นงั้นอีกวันครึ่งช่วยอินเฟสเขาหน่อยนะเดี๋ยวตั้งแต่บ่ายเนี่ยต่อไปเนี่ยนะเขาถามอะไรว่ามีช่วยอะไรอีกไหม No I don't have it now แต่อย่า No I don't have it now ทุกวันเลยนะเพราะว่าพรุ่งนี้คือวันสุดท้ายแล้วคุณเข้าใจยังคือการเขียนในเมลเนี่ยคุณเนี่ย100%นะเขาบอกเก่งมาก แต่สิ่งหนึ่งที่เขาไม่เข้าใจก็คือว่าทำไมยังไม่พูด ทำไมยังไม่พูดสักทีเพราะนั้นโปรดนะคะออกมาเพราะฉะนั้นครูต้องขอบคุณมากเลยนะที่เขาถูกครูบังคับนะคะให้ออกมาแต่เขาน่ารักมากเลยนะทุกคนก็เหมือนกันนะเราก็เข้าใจว่าเวลาใครออกมาปั๊บคุณช่วยอย่างนี้ได้ไหมคุณเข้าใจเปล่าเข้าใจนะคะอย่างนี้ให้กำลังใจเพื่อนนะคะในการทำนั่นคือสิ่งที่เขาอยากจะให้ครูเนี่ยออกมาว่าครูเนี่ยโอเวอร์คัมปัญหาจากต่างประเทศได้อย่างไรแต่ครูบอกตามตรงเลยนะครูเดินกลับบ้านจูงจักรยานกลับบ้านทุกวันที่ครูเรียนต่างประเทศร้องไห้ทุกวันนะคะว่าทำไมถึงพูดไม่ได้สักทีพูดไม่ได้สักทีแล้วดันมาถูกเพื่อนบางคนบอกว่าวันที่พา Why your language is so bad ตกใจเลยอยู่เป็นใครมาว่าฉันแล้วก็บอกว่า compare with your brain อ่ะโอ้โหเธอทำไมอ่ะ very excellent เลยนะอ้าวเพราะเขา major อะไรอ่ะ English education I'm science education อ่ะมันจะมาเปรียบเทียบกันได้ยังไงอ่ะโอ้โหกูโมโหมากเลยมันถามมาทำไมว่าคำถามนี้มันได้ดีในวิชานั้นเราได้เอมันคือต้องการทำให้เราเจ็บใจก็เอาจุดอ่อนของเรามาบอกว่าเราทำไมฮะไม่เก่งโอ้โหพอเพื่อนพูดอย่างนั้นปั๊บทำไมอ่ะครูเข้าคอร์สภาษาอังกฤษเลยคือต่างประเทศดีเขาจะมีคอร์สฟรีอ่ะติดเอาไว้practice การเขียนภาษาอังกฤษ practice การ pronunciation practice การอะไรอ่ะแต่งแกรมมาครูก็เข้าคอร์สทันทีเลยก็จะโอเวอร์คัมหมายว่ามันเป็นแรงผลักดันอ่ะคือถ้าแบบเขาไม่บอกเราก็ไม่รู้นะภาษาอังกฤษเราเรียนก็ทั้งที่เรารู้อยู่แล้วอะว่ามันแย่ใช่ไหมแต่พอมีเพื่อนมาบอกปั๊บมันก็เลยทำให้เราทำไมอะต้องพัฒนาตัวเองเนี่ยมากขึ้นต้องครูฝากเลยนะคะนะอันนี้ก็คืออินเทอร์มิชชั่นนะอินเทอร์มิชชั่น I think that they can join you from now on they say that I look at their face you know they just eye contact and I can read it you know from their eye that they're going to communicate with you from now on
Thank you. Yes, that's yours. Yes, that's great. What I was wondering is, as Professor Van Tiepen was speaking, she was communicating such a lot, again, through her body and her expression, but the humour, the laughter, is very important in terms of education. Now, we have the cameraman at the back of the room. Most of you will have forgotten that it's being videoed. Now, those 10 minutes of Professor Van Tiepen, we could have on YouTube very quickly with Professor Van Tiepen's approval. We need the ethical approval. But I'm going to suggest that with the cameraman, we might be able to get this onto YouTube, and certainly in a few days, because we have the e-list, I could then send you the URL, or someone else could, so you can access that last 10 minutes. Because in terms of the movement in the Thai culture, to the active and the inquiry, it felt to me over lunch when Professor Van Tiepen was explaining what had happened to her, the developed Thai educators could see and experience what you've just experienced. It would actually communicate to them. Is that okay? Because I'm not sure how we're going to do this, but if I could have a talk at the end, we could see how we could get this particular clip of 10 minutes, you know, as I say, onto YouTube. Because it's this kind of communication together which I think will help you. And there's your communication here, yeah? That it's the same, it's a lovely piece of writing. And if you like, it's so different to how you're feeling about coming in front of the microphone. It's exactly what Professor was saying. So this is where that confidence, you know, needs to grow, because this is really excellent in terms of the National Education Act, and then the basic curriculum. Same idea, enhancing capacity of all learners. And then by development in physical strength, basic knowledge, essential schools. So you've got a policy, government policy, which is trying to help you to improve in the way that we're talking. But the cultural pressures are really, at the moment, too great because of this passivity. And here we are, university, is this the Prince of Songland? Is that right? Songland. Songland. University, teach less, learn more. A type of active learning. And again, we've got, from the south of the country, this issue to do with cultural differences, which in terms of your inquiry will need to come in a way that perhaps in the centre of the country they will not be as significant. But nonetheless, in your inquiry, they really are vital, so we need those in. Now, that's an excellent piece of writing. I hope you can all see just how good this is. Yet you know it, that if I ask you now to come to the microphone, that feeling, is very great. And when we talked before, it's exactly what Professor Van Tieper was saying, that it was months, I think, for her to overcome that passivity. And she was in a culture that was expecting it. Her peer pressure was all to develop it. Do you see? Your peer pressure is to conform. Now, you're going to have to provide some leadership to show that these kinds of inquiries are desirable because they're part of government policy. You've got this lovely expression here, very clear, which shows how the government, the ministry, and your university are all promoting, as they were with your university, the values that we're talking about. So again, tomorrow I hope that we can all gain some more practice in getting the communications together of the quality of your writing. And remember, this is your second or third language that you're communicating so clearly with well-formed reflections, profoundly significant. Now, can we possibly get your verbal communications, the communications when you're in your small groups or in the microphone, matching the quality of your communications as you are writing, in your action plans, your reflections on culture, and also as you put this down with the government, the ministry, the university policy. It's superb the way you both put those down. So that is what I'm hoping we will be able to focus on. Thank you, Professor Van Tieper, for that, because, as I say, if we can just get that 10 minutes with the clip onto YouTube, along with your Spandlefish sites, you'll be able to show the people back in your university something of what we were doing. So when you're asked, hopefully you've got both the work on the website, myactionresearch.net, your Spandlefish sites, and the action plans with some of the details of cultural influences, and that lovely 10-minute just expression of learning that Professor Van Tieper had to go through. And you can see how long it took, and the pressure that she was supported with, enormous peer pressure, to develop the inquiry learning. You are going to have to express that as leaders much more than Professor Van Tieper had to, because she had around her people that were already doing it. So this is why tomorrow I'm hoping that we can all practice this inquiry together as one of our major issues. Now, what I'd like very much to do is to focus some of your conversation together now on what it is that you as leaders in the school-university partnerships might be faced with in relation to your cooperating teachers. You have got it's very exciting possibility. You've got tremendous support from the policies of your government, the ministry, and it seems the university, and certainly IPST. You know, all of the messages I'm getting is that what we call your policy context is very supportive. In my country, we have a conservative government, Labour Party. So in Bath, I was what was called a Labour councillor, so I've been an active Labour supporter. Our policies are very different as Labour supporters to our